Happy Friday, July the 11th, everyone. Thank you for joining us for episode 12 of Virtually Incorrect, and I'm your host, Gunter. For those tuning in for the first time, every week I find 4 stimulating guests from the VR community to join us in discussion and speculation on virtual reality in virtual reality. The show is semi-serious with nothing off limits and nothing censored, and guests are encouraged to speak their minds. And viewers at home, you should probably put your kids to bed. VI is always looking for interesting guests, so please reach out to me on Reddit at Gunter444. And I'm looking for an editor for the show. So if you're interested in editing and want to do that on a weekly basis, please reach out. That would be great. And remember, you can always join us here in the studio audience. Got a bunch of people with us tonight. Just download riftmax and hop on in. All right, with me tonight is an exciting panel of VR developers, personalities, and enthusiasts ready to dive into some discussion and speculation. On my right, we have Kent Bai, host of Voices of VR, a great podcast celebrating his 50th show this week. Welcome, Kent.
Awesome, thanks. Glad to be here.
Totally. And also on my right, we have Mike Jones, also known as Quixotic7 on Reddit, software engineer and 3D artist at Tactical Haptics. Glad you could join us.
I'm glad to be here, Gunter. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, totally, man. And on my left, I have Rev Kyle, part of the Road to VR team and host of the Rev Kyle podcast. What's up, Rev?
Greetings, all of you.
And finally, we have Cosmo. He started the VRLA meetup and facilitates that. He's also a film production student at University of Southern California, which is awesome. What's up, Cosmo?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's going good. No complaints this Friday. So tonight we're going to talk about Oculus Connect, DK2 worries, some Kickstarter updates, and to round things off, a story of a VR freakout. And before we start, I want to give some shout-outs to the riftmax Theater here and the VI team, our guests, the audience, and everybody watching from home. Can't thank you enough for your support and your eyeballs. All right, our first story is Oculus Connect conference announced. And in an email newsletter, Oculus announced its first official developer conference taking place this September in Hollywood, California. So what I'd like to know is, are you guys going? Kent?
Well, I think the thing is that we don't really know what the application process is going to be. So it's a little hard for us to commit to saying that we're going to be there because it could be some lottery or something, you know. So we're kind of in limbo, not really able to make plans, but I want to do everything I can to be there because I'd love to do a whole nother round of interviews there at the conference. So I'm just kind of waiting to see whether or not. Yeah, so we're just kind of waiting to see what the process is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting on the 10th, like, I'm ready to go, but it makes sense that they want to iron it out, and I always don't mind those sort of things. I want things to be good to go. But what, you know, maybe if that's not the case, it's not a lottery, obviously you would be interested to go. And what about you, Mike? Is that something that interests you? Have you attended SVVR in the past?
I attended the SVVR conference, and we were there. That was a lot of fun. I'd love to go to Oculus Connect, but we haven't really discussed this and decided on whether or not we're going yet, so we will see. Hopefully we do decide to go, so that would be fun.
Yeah, it's always a good time, but yeah, we'll see about that. How about you, Rev? You've been going around to SVVR, E3, and a lot of things lately.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, like Kent said, it's more or less going to be, you know, who's going to be allowed to go? Are they going to allow media passes? Is it going to cost $8,000? Is there only room for, 40 people? That sort of thing. It's all, do I want to go? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to cost too much and discourage some people? I'm really scared about that. So we'll have to just wait and see.
Sure. If I could see if it's like $300 or so, that sounds about reasonable for conferences that I've been into in the past, and totally would be worth it to me to be able to be with everybody there and do my thing. How about you, Cosmo? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I am already in LA right now, so it's perfect for me, and I'm of course very, very excited. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be a part of it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Right on. And I wanted to give a shout out to Redapaw's Kickstarter. It's called Redapaw's Big Crazy Stupid VR Adventure. So he's one of our good friends, and he was on one of the VR developer chats over in VR chat actually this last week on Wednesday. So he talked all about that, and what he's trying to do is get to Oculus Connect. So he's asking for anything you got to help him get there, because he'd really like to get there and attend. And he's making a little crazy big ass stupid VR adventure Kickstarter. Have you guys heard of that, Kent?
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I think that certainly a lot of his anime VR experiences are really compelling and got a lot of reaction from the VR community. So I'm not convinced as to whether or not you throw a bunch of stuff into a VR experience that is generated from a crowd, whether or not that's going to be coherent. But he's certainly a great community member, and I'd love to see his Kickstarter succeed so that he could come out to the Oculus Connect. Yeah, so it looks like he's on track, and yeah, so it seems like a pretty neat project, and I'm curious to see how it unfolds. And it's if nothing else, gives a nice sort of levity. Doesn't look like it's going to be too serious, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Right, and it's really this community member that you can support to go, to one of these places. I think is really neat. And he could just be asking for that, but he is trying to make at least some sort of demo for people to enjoy and have fun. So I totally dig that. And let's shoot over here to Rev. What is your thoughts on this?
I think it's great. It was a lot of fun talking with him the other day in VR chat. Just I like the idea that there are well-known people in the VR community who are reaching out, trying to do some, like Kent said, it might be an interesting process to have crowd offered assets and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're going to need stuff like that too. Not everything has to come from a AAA gaming. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of the crowdsourced game. I'm not really sure what the end product will be like, but I think it's definitely a unique way to get his trip paid for, especially considering how awesome the conference will probably be.
Oh yeah,
and that pie, that apple pie, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's so funny. I love stuff like that. It's kitschy, it's fun, and that's what I like about a lot of this stuff. So great to see. Hopefully he will get funding, and I'll certainly be throwing some money his way. And actually, Mike, I don't think we got your full chime in except for the good pie. Was that all you wanted to say?
I had to back it for the pie. I'm quite the pie connoisseur myself, and
what's your favorite pie?
I found his video to be pretty hilarious. Apple pie is probably my favorite. Not a really big fan of blueberries. Cherry pie is pretty good.
Yeah, I like cherry pie.
Yeah, overall. Apple or a pecan pie is very good.
Mom's a big fan of the pecan.
Oh yeah, like pecans drive me nuts, man.
Oh man,
your favorite pie?
Oh, favorite pie? I don't know, pumpkin.
It's a good one too.
That's a good choice.
Cosmo, you like pie?
I do, but I'm actually allergic to wheat, so I can't eat regular pie, unfortunately.
Didn't know there was regular pie, so yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Thanks for that.
All right, moving on to the next topic. Harsh CyberReality. Vsync really needed with DK2, and CyberReality says, well, with DK1, it was somewhat acceptable to run without Vsync. You would get tearing, but it could be minor or not noticeable. However, on the DK2, because the screen is rotated, the tear is vertical. This means that it's possible for the eyes to go out of sync, and this is a major issue. So you really need Vsync on DK2 for sure. And a comment by LukeMan3000 says, I've got to be honest, this sucks for me. The absolute first thing I do in any given game is disable Vsync. Screen tearing doesn't bother me, but input lag definitely does. I cannot stand input lag, and that's one thing that really bugs me about the console gaming as a whole. Vsync is usually forced on with no way to disable. Mike, what is your thoughts on this?
I mean, it would be nice to be able to run it without the Vsync. It's an interesting issue that I don't think many of us really thought too much of until it's like, oh, well, now it's tearing horizontally. I mean, the question is, how much is that slight frame difference going to affect most people? It could affect some people a lot, and they might not need Vsync. I personally prefer having Vsync off, just because, you know, it's smoother, but hopefully different stuff like G-Sync is going to work to fix these kinds of problems. So.
I'm not aware of
G-Sync is really...
Yeah,
sorry.
take it away.
G-Sync is really interesting, and I can imagine a potential future of the Rift, you know, an iteration where they have some kind of chip inside the HMD itself that syncs up with your computer's GPU, much like the G-Sync monitors that are slowly starting to come out. And hopefully if Oculus implements something like that, that will get rid of this issue that we're talking about now with Vsync.
I kind of found the whole thing hilarious. You know, anybody who had worked with the HD Rift knew about this already, because when you plug the HD Rift in to a computer, it comes up as portrait, not landscape, and so this has already been something that had to be dealt with. Now, in terms of, you know, screen tearing, I don't know how bad it's going to be. I think a lot of the concern has to do with the fact that, you know, the low persistence and the way it works on that screen, since it's you know, OLED versus LCD. I think that's a big part of it. I think that's why they're making such a stink about it. But yeah, to some people, this wasn't news.
Right, interesting. Wonder why it didn't circle, you know, brought up before, or maybe it was, and of course somebody like me just didn't catch that, but it's definitely interesting, and if you have Vsync on, you're going to need a beefier machine. I'm sure for some people that's going to be an issue. Kent, what's your perspective on this?
Well, you know, I get a lot of my information about this from the Reddit thread. I haven't really tracked it outside of that context, but I know that Everyday VR had a lot of performance specifications that he did, and he had actually created this whole patch tool that would be able to turn off Vsync and kind of change the binary and just turn it off, because he found that it was getting a much better frame rate. So there seems to be a performance hit in terms of frame rate with this Vsync, and forcing people to use it, I would have concerns that it would be some limiting factor. And beyond that, I don't have a lot of opinions other than what is being discussed in the Reddit threads. I guess I have more of a question to put back to the group here, is like, what's the worst that can happen if they force it to be turned on? Is there going to be too much lag or input delay, or what are the consequences of forcing people to use Vsync?
Sure,
Crossed eyes. Crossed eyes, mostly.
I can deal with that.
Yeah, me too.
Is it just basically lag, you know, or needing beefier machines, or is there any other issues?
Yeah, well, imagine that one eye is moving faster than the other, I guess. I mean, I'm not really sure. I think we're all in the same boat. We're just going to have to wait and see what it looks like.
Interesting. And And a few more notes here on this topic. Somebody says, without extreme, careful engine optimization, it's not hard for Vsync, or in this case, HSync, to add 20 or even 50 milliseconds or more of rendering and buffering latency. As per our experiments in Torque, you might be able to notice approximately 15 milliseconds of latency in a control test, but when the latency is in your face, you feel it. Maybe time warping or G-Sync or something else will save us, but this is another nail in the coffin for near-term mainstream adoption of VR. So those are more the details that you guys were bringing up. Does anybody have any comments on that?
I really think people are overreacting. It's like, oh, rage quit, flip the table. Just wait,
Mainstream
guys.
Won't like it, no.
Right. Just wait until we get them. They might just be talking about optimal experience. It might be tolerable with it off.
In any case, any developer of a VR game should take the time to optimize their game so that it's going to run well, because all Oculus and VR demos are going to use a lot more graphical performance, and it's just something you gotta do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed that some other friends have joined in the audience, so thank you guys for coming and hanging out. And if anybody that's watching the stream wants to come, just download riftmax, join us, and just be courteous. And you're welcome to sit up here in the bandstands, or if you're not feeling up to it in the seats over there, that's fine too. All right, so the next segment I'd like to roll into is a guest spotlight. And first spotlight I'd like to do is Kent by Voices of VR. Kent, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in VR.
Sure. Well, I'm a video content marketer by my day job, but I've been doing podcasts for about 5 or 6 years. I've done probably over 450 interviews from technology to various esoteric topics. And I guess my bread and butter is to go to a conference and to kind of roam around and talk to as many presenters and exhibitors as I can. And so at this past Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference, I was able to do 44 interviews over the course of 2 days and get a little over 10 and a half hours worth of interview content that I have been doing as a daily podcast for the past 45 days. So today kind of marks my 50th episode and the final interview from SVVR Con. So it's kind of a nice milestone for me here.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. I remember when I first saw your podcast coming onto the scene, I was like, cool, and it was like, you really got great guests, and I was really enjoying it. And then it's like, how are you doing this? Like, there was just all these great guests all the time, and I'm like, I try to get guests on here, and you're just making this stuff happen. It was really cool. And then I liked when we got to talk, and you told me that you basically did a lot of these at SVVR, and I love that strategy. And we both are familiar with Drupal. We talked about this, and that's what I do as a day job for web development. So going to like DrupalCon and all that is it's an awesome scene. I love doing the same. I never did a podcast, but you were doing a voices or Drupal voices, I believe, and you did hundreds of those. That's spectacular. And I remember listening to all that. So it's great to meet you.
That's funny, yeah. It's sort of a blast from the past. That's actually kind of how I developed that process, would be at DrupalCon. I think my record was 82 interviews in 4 days, and then I would kind of do a daily podcast from that. So, and virtual reality, I think, is such a compelling and interesting area. Coming from more of a film background, I see it as really a new communications medium, and it's really kind of figuring out this new medium and how to use it. And I think we're all just kind of figuring it out. And with the Drupal community, I was a part of it as it was going through exponential growth. And, we would have conferences that would have 5,000 people there. And my strategy was to try to find the leaders within the community to interview them in a short 10 to 15 minute segment to get kind of the gist of what they were working on. And I see that the same trend within the virtual reality community, is that very quickly and there's already so much happening all the time that it's really hard to keep up. So my strategy is just to talk to as many people as I can, get their nugget of wisdom, and then share it out to the community, and to start to cultivate community, but also share a lot of that knowledge with people. And
then you're going to try it at Oculus Connect as well, so that's great. All right, moving on with some more questions. So actually, what did make you get involved in podcasting just in general? How did that start appealing to you?
Well, I actually started with film and did a lot of interviews. I actually did like 80 interviews about the build-up to the war in Iraq. And I realized that the interview process was much more gratifying for me than the editing and processing. And so for me, the process of doing an interview, you can just get so much information from people. You do a little research. For SVVRCon, I had kind of did my homework, read all the bios and researched everybody and came up with a hit list of questions. And then it's just a great opportunity to network, but also to really get face-to-face questions to people. In conferences, I like to hack conferences. I don't like to sit down and just listen to something for 60 minutes. I just get too anxious. I need to be moving around and roaming around and talking to people. So that's kind of my strategy, is to just never stop moving and just try to bump into people as much as I can. And that seems to work out in terms of not trying to plan anything and just roaming around and trying to get as much kind of VR wisdom as I can and
it's really about
the
after party.
Yeah, the hallway conversations is where a lot of the really interesting stuff is happening. And so, I mean, my experience of SVVR Con was basically what I recorded and shared out with people. So
great stuff. And what can we expect in the future from you? Any other podcast ideas or formats, or continuing just with the same thing?
Well, I have done a couple of interviews through Skype, and we'll be releasing those tomorrow. But I actually did go to another conference that's called Immersion 2014, and I did 22 interviews there over a couple of days, exploring topics of how immersive technologies and virtual reality is being used in the context of business, education, and entertainment. So a lot of really interesting conversations that I had there with academics and practitioners from all those fields. So I'll have start that probably on Monday and have another 3-week series. And then depending on what happens with the Oculus Connect, if I turns out that I can go, then maybe I'll try to do a daily podcast for an entire year. That's my stretch goal, but we'll see how long I can keep it up.
Cool. And one final question. How did you become a master hula hooper?
Hula hooping is something I picked up from just taking classes, and I like to do hula hoop performances, and I've actually gotten more into being a whirling dervish, which is spinning around in circles for an hour at a time. So I've kind of left the hula hooping to do that.
Wait, spin in circles for an hour at a time?
Yeah, it's a soupy whirling
like a
dervish
hallucination
practice.
or something?
It's kind of an ecstatic dance, but it's more of a soupy practice.
Does that help with nausea in the rift?
I would expect that it would, but it's funny because I do tend to get motion sick. So it because of the technology, it doesn't make me immune, unfortunately. So.
That sounds incredibly tiring.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the video that I saw on YouTube was like 3 minutes of you doing it on, I guess, a lullabot party. Was that?
Yeah, I have been known to whip out a hula hoop performance every now and again.
Cool. Any of our guests have any questions for Kent before we move on?
I just have one comment. Kent, you're going to make me look bad if you do a podcast every day for the next year. I can't keep up with that.
I know, Rev. I thought you were a machine and just churning these things out and marveled in that. And then, it's so cool, though. It makes sense to go to these cons and just pack them in. And that's, a blast. So, cool. I'm going to do that at Oculus Connect or something. I don't know. I'm going to try to do some kind of virtually incorrect thing. It'll probably more just something like this, but there. And people here can help me brainstorm it and see what we can come up with.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it would be cool to do a live virtually incorrect at a conference with a few different guests.
It would be really funny if we all sat around a table and all put riffs on and all came back here, which would make sense so we could be with the audience and everybody. So, yeah.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah, somebody likes that. Yeah. All right, cool. And I don't know, are we throwing up videos tonight? I did have a few in there that we could. How's that looking?
Yeah, that's fine.
There was possibly something, I don't know if we actually got it in there. Rubik, do we have a Voices of VR? Or we could look up the hula hooping video if you just type can't buy. I think that's the first thing.
All right.
I'm trying to get a video for everybody in. And it's something we're trying to get used to as well, so it'll go a little smoother in the future. And testing it out, we haven't been doing this, but I think 1 week before this. And we all want to see hula hoop, dude. We're all staring like, okay.
Yeah.
What is
if
it?
you search Lullabot can't buy hula hoop.
Oh my god. That ass.
Shake your booty. It's really good.
Pretty impressive, man.
I've never seen hula hooping like that.
Wow.
Kent, I have a new respect for you, sir.
Man, that's
for that
awesome.
Wow.
I love it. All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about Cyberith Virtualizer on Kickstarter. That's coming out on July 23rd. Run, jump, rotate, and sit. Have any of you seen or tried this out and have any interest? And let's start with Cosmo.
I know about it. I certainly haven't tried it. It seems very cool. I would love to try it. I've been able to try the Omni once, I think, during GDC, and it was pretty cool. But I think one thing that how do you call it? The virtualizer?
Yeah, Cyberith Virtualizer.
Yeah. God, what a mouthful.
Truly.
Cyberith.
Sounds cool, but it is a mouthful.
The thing that it has going for it is that you can kind of sit down, like you can kind of squat in it.
Right.
And I think that, being able to run and walk through VR is awesome, but is going to be extremely tiring. And I know that just from my 5 minutes with the Omni, by the time I was done with that, I was just sweating bullets. And I think most people don't want that kind of extreme physical exercise when they just want to navigate a virtual environment. And so hopefully the Cyberith thing is less strenuous, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm an Omni fan, but I agree with you that it's not going to be for most people. And I believe me and Rev talked about this many times. You're not a fan, right?
Yeah, I am not a fan of the omnidirectional treadmill concept.
How about the other one as well, Virtualizer's right in that
Well, it seems to have the same dilemma that the Omni does, which is it does not look like it is going to accommodate the economy-sized VR fans. Let's put it that way.
Sure. And Mike, what is your thoughts on the Virtualizer?
Well, I like the fact that I can use socks with it.
That's a plus.
I love wearing socks. It's very comfortable.
Never thought of that.
Honestly, I'd have to try it, and I haven't had a chance to try out the Omni. Some people I know have tried the Omni, and I've heard mixed reviews of it. I like the idea of being to walk around, omnidirectionally in VR, but
sure.
It may be a minute until everything's got to be wireless and out of the way until one of these systems is really going to take off. And for some people, I mean, for a lot of us casually, we're just going to want to use joysticks or maybe hand gestures to control ourselves and move around in the environment. But I can also see like some hardcore first-person shooter players really wanting to get into the game, and some serious competitive gaming that uses these omnidirectional treadmills. But yeah, I hope the Cyberith Virtualizer, I hope their Kickstarter is very successful, because it's always good to have some competition out there to improve these products, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree as well. And the idea of the first-person shooter potentially picking this up and being competitive makes me think of like flight simulators where we have all that hardware and gear to really immerse you in that. It seems like this is great. It'll be an opportunity for them to buy up some of that expensive gear and really do what they want to do every single day, I'm sure, because that's what they're into. Kent, have you tried either of these, the Omni or Virtualizer, and what is your thoughts on the Virtualizer?
I haven't tried either. I kind of see this in the realm of VR locomotion, though, and I've done like 4 interviews with people that have different approaches, and I haven't talked to anyone from Cyberith, but there's the most extreme Infinidect, which is that crazy 1,000 pounds omnidirectional. You know, put yourself in a room and you walk around on this treadmill that has 2 directions. Then you have the extremely lightweight, which is Matt Stompz, which you put the little stomps on your feet and you move around, walk in place. And then the Cyberith and the Omni seem to be in the same category where you're putting yourself in a harness that is going around your crotch, which Matt Stompz was not a big fan of. I like that there's socks, and that, you know, I have questions as to the little pegs that are on your feet and how well that works in terms of, you know, you're putting it down, it's going to sort of move either left or the right to find that groove. So I haven't experienced that to know how that works. And then the most experimental approach is Scott Phillips and the VR Walker, where you put these devices on your shoes and it's just, you're able to walk in place, and there's wheels on the feet that keep you in place. There's no working prototype for that, but I think that's an interesting idea. I think all of these gets to the point of walking is activating your unconscious and is giving you a better sense of presence. And so I think it's important to look at these where you're integrating unconscious acts within virtual reality can give you a sense of presence that sitting still will not give you. And so I think from that perspective, it's really interesting, and I'm interested in seeing how it develops.
Yeah, me too as well. I mean, it was APieceOfFruit, one of our friends here, that was saying he really wants to get in the Omni and walk up, you know, the mountain in Skyrim and see how tired he is. You know, so I kind of find it interesting that you get tired. For me, I sit on my ass all the time and work on the computer and develop, and so I really want to kind of do some exercise, but not like rigorous. I just want to kind of walk for 20 minutes or something like that, or try to, like, you know, climb a mountain in Skyrim. I think that sounds really cool. But speaking of the Omni, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, walking uphill may provide some issues with motion sickness. So from what I've heard, walking straight is fine, but once you start to go up or down, your vestibular reflexes are kind of expecting certain reactions, and so there could be the potential for motion sickness and simulator sickness if you're doing too much climbing or going up and down or turning too sharply.
No. No, that's a great point, though. I never thought of that, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That'll be interesting. I wonder, you know, I'm not as sensitive to the motion sickness. Will I be able to correct that and still have the good time I want, or is it going to be ruined? That's interesting. So Omni, today, it was today that talked about that they're going to have to delay their product a little more. So the production of the Omni is again, yeah, exactly.
Again?
Taking shape. It's taking shape, though. We are currently, finalizing our mass volume production version and are rigorously validating its performance, after which we plan to sign off and start tooling. Production is estimated to start in Q4 of this year. With priority given to the Kickstarter units, production and shipment of your pre-order is estimated early 2015. We apologize for this delay and for any inconvenience we are causing. If, however, this delay is unacceptable, we will be able to process a refund upon your request, which is really interesting, especially after hearing what I've heard here. Some thoughts that are going on in my head, because now I'm moving into an RV hopefully soon, and I don't know where the hell I'm going to put this Omni now. And there's this Virtuix Kickstarter a week from now. Are people going to want to say, yeah, I don't want to wait this long, even though they're going to have to wait for the Virtualizer, but still, maybe they want to wear socks. What do you think, Rev?
Well, yeah. How many people have a treadmill under their bed or in their basement next to other machines that they maybe bought and used once or twice? I don't want to exercise while I'm playing video games. I just want to be able to sit on my butt and play my games. And it's, to me, I'm not going to do that type of thing. I mean, I like Stompz because I can sit and do it. Right. I just, it's a really hard sell for me, and I think a lot of gamers feel the way I do. Now, not everybody, but I think a lot of people just don't want to move while they're playing their video games.
Yeah, Matt Stompz's product would be much better for me in the RV, and I want to try it so bad. I love when things are simple and affordable. Of course, the Omni isn't that, but it was really appealing to me, and it really still is, to have a bunch of crazy equipment, but I certainly could see it not getting much use. So, Cosmo, you chimed in about the Omni. Anything to add to this?
Yeah, I feel like where the Omni strengths lie is in fitness and fitness applications, and not necessarily it's not necessarily a solution for VR locomotion in general. I think it's more of a solution for potentially getting exercise inside of virtual reality, and I think that's incredibly awesome and exciting, and I have a feeling that's kind of where that might be the direction that they will take in terms of the software that will come out in the next few years for it.
I think they need to sell it to fitness centers then. I mean, that's where it needs to be.
Which would be really awesome. Some people going to work out at the fitness center and they're in VR doing it. I mean, it's definitely an interesting idea, but it's quite a hunk of equipment, that's for sure. Any other thoughts from you guys on the Omni?
Well, I guess if you're going to look at it, I'd rather them get it right and take more time to get it right. But I think it kind of goes back to every single product-based Kickstarter, that if they give a date, you can just kind of expect that there's going to be a certain amount of delay. It just seems to happen on every single Kickstarter I've seen. So, so there's that. But I think that it gets back to this kind of like, how much can we trust anyone these days about when things are going to launch? I think even Oculus has faced this in terms of their dates that they've provided and then slipping on them. Even with the Oculus Connect this past week, it just is frustrating for the users to have a date. And I'd almost rather them say, you know what, we don't know, we'll tell you when we do know, rather than say, oh, we know it's going to be in a month, but oh wait, no, we're not going to be able to hit that. So to have some assurances that they're going to be able to meet these targets that they're providing, I think is just going to provide a better experience for people who are waiting on these.
Kent, I think you're bringing up a really valid point. I mean, a lot of us put a lot of money into Kickstarters over the course of the last year or so. And what happens if the Omni never provides a product, or what if it's 2016 and they're still pushing it back, and like you said with what Oculus is doing, there's been this moron who keeps getting on to Reddit and posting, it's like, we should all call Oculus and tell them how terrible they are because they said they were going to tell us more by the 14th and DK2 shipping and blah 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 blah. It's terrible, We know who you are, sir. Stop it. Where's the camera? The camera's right there. Stop it. Stop posting under your stupid fake Reddit names. We know who you are, and we don't care. Shut up.
We're coming after you.
That's right.
Meet us at Oculus Connect, if you dare.
Yeah.
At high noon. Yeah, that stuff's annoying. I'm not the fanboy that really cares about those dates. I don't mind if things get pushed back, but there's a limit, and certainly when I order these things, I am looking at that expected release date, and totally want to have that happen. But as long as they come through within a 6 months, a year, I think I'm okay. Any other thoughts on that? All right. Let's move on to PrioVR. They also had an update. They said they don't have a specific date yet, but planning to ship our Kickstarter backers in the last few months of the year. So they're similar situation Omni. And they come up with these dates for a few reasons. First is the industrial design phase of the suite design, or the suit design is almost ready for sign-off. After that happens, we will be taking the designs to manufacturing. And in the meantime, we're looking to modify the designs of our beta suits slightly to allow us to produce them in greater numbers. And until now, our closed beta testers worked on our original SDK, and they've completely reconstructed, and the new SDK is the first version of what will be the foundation of the SDK that many of you will be using. And they also are working with Technoless, which we've heard a lot from. He was on the second VR developer chat, and yeah, he's working that into the game, which is exciting to hear. So let's shoot this over to Mike. What are your thoughts on the PrioVR update?
Well, they should definitely take their time and try and develop the best SDK they can, because that's going to be very important for developer adoption. And they should definitely try and get as much beta feedback as they can, and it's pretty cool that they're starting to work with developers like Technolust, because having at least one program that supports your device and is pretty cool is definitely going to inspire interest from people wanting to develop for it.
I'm glad they got such a cool game too. Blair's pretty cool. What about you, Kent? PrioVR, is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, I think I am interested in any sort of VR input that allows you to move around and give you a better sense of presence. And I think it's an interesting low-cost capture for creating virtual reality content. I think that's going to be a pretty big application for it. It's kind of this limbo that all VR developers are in right now in terms of what devices should they support. We're all kind of waiting to hear what Oculus is going to be releasing in terms of their default input device. And I think the most exciting thing about Oculus Connect is that they sort of tease that we're going to get a preview of upcoming Oculus technologies. So I've got my fingers crossed that we're going to start to hear what is the default input that Oculus is going to be providing, because that's going to be driving a lot of what most developers are going to be using. And all these other peripherals are more like, I don't expect them to do something as elaborate as PrioVR, so I think they've got a pretty safe niche in that way. But who knows? I mean, maybe they'll figure out a way to put infrared IR trackers on your elbow and do the same thing with the camera-based IR that Oculus is doing. So we'll see. I'm kind of going to wait and see what Oculus is doing and then look at it. And the other thing I'd say is take a look at Doc Ock's pretty epic reviews of all the technology at SVVRCon. I think he is probably the leader in terms of testing and deconstructing, because he not only knows how it works, but he can kind of hack it to see where it starts to break down. And I think that anytime you have IMUs that are using acceleration to be able to do two integrations to find the position, you're going to get noisy data. And I just wonder how accurate it's going to be. And maybe if you do it relative to each other, it's going to be good enough, which I think is what they do. They sort of chain them to be able to get some relative positioning. So we'll see how well it actually comes out in practice.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. Really excited about the motion capture part. I think that's going to be, something unique and huge. Rev, what is your thoughts on PrioVR? I'm sure we've talked about it before, but,
Oh, yeah. Well, And like Kent said, Doc Ock puts out some very interesting analysis of these things, and he is, he preaches constantly about the problems with IMUs and what people are trying to do with them. But here's the deal: I have put the PrioVR suit on, and I have used it, and I have enjoyed myself immensely, and so I backed.
Sounds kind of dirty.
Well, yeah. There were zombies, and I bashed them, with a baseball bat, and there was blood and gore. Yeah. But no, it is a hard sell if you haven't tried it. But that seems to be the mantra for all VR equipment. If you haven't tried it, you don't know whether you like it or not. So, I encourage folks to try the PrioVR for themselves. I'm not saying Doc Ock is wrong, but it worked, and I enjoyed myself, and I'm very pleased with the fact that I bought it, and I'm looking forward to it. And I understand delays for a project like that. I would expect them to delay. I've made that comment before. I'm okay with a delay as long as it means I'm getting a superior product.
Sure. And it's all, early days, and people haven't made these things before, so it's hard for me to set the expectation that it should be there, the day they said from initial, start. So I figured this would happen, and, it's just going to be a lot of Christmas gifts, maybe. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, the other thing about PrioVR, too, that people have to understand is that they already had suits that were more industrial strength. They're just, scaling it down to make it a consumer product. So they've already been there, done that. It's just a matter of getting it to, because actors don't care if they're covered in little, a blue spandex suit and a couple dots and equipment. But as a consumer, we need it to feel like, a space suit, something out of Lawnmower Man type of thing.
What do you think, Cos?
Yeah, I've tried the Prio suit as well, and I thought it was pretty awesome, very accurate. I think the mocap applications are very interesting, especially for, creating or driving animation for characters inside of virtual reality. That's really cool. But what Kent was getting at was, I think, interesting in that in the past year, there's been this kind of insane explosion of startups around VR peripherals, and there's a lot of developers are I guess struggling to figure out which of these new technologies they want to support. And I have a feeling that whatever Oculus comes out with, whatever their input method is, whatever kind of crazy, wacky fifth dimensional controller they come up with, that is what the majority of developers will support, because it will probably look the best and act the best and be the most accurate. I mean, that's, hopefully if it's Oculus, that it better be the best. And that's not to say that developers won't support something like the Prio or something like the Omni, but I have a feeling that a lot of these peripherals that are coming out will become somewhat irrelevant in the next few years.
Yeah, totally. I'm glad I bought all of them then. But, playing with Bone, I'm really interested in, like, Teddy OK or other people getting their hands and hacking these things. Look what he was able to do with the Hydras that we're using now. And I'm stoked about these sort of things, so I think it'll work out for me. But, yeah, how are you supposed to support everything? You can't, and so I'm sure wait and see is what it's going to be.
So I have a question for you, Cosmo. Do you think that Oculus is going to come out with a 17-point body tracking system as their controller?
No, I don't think so. And that is, I guess, the strength of what Prio is making. I do definitely doubt that Oculus is making some kind of full body mocap suit. I feel like it's more along the lines of what Sixth Sense is doing, probably with some kind of twist. I'm not really sure what that twist is, but some kind of 6DoF controller that tracks the hands and has some kind of joystick, and I don't know, but definitely not a mocap suit.
Yeah, that's
the. Go to Rev.
Well, I was just going to say that was the conversation that Cymatic Bruce and I had many moons ago. It seems like it's been forever ago now. That you're going to need to have PrioVR and STEM together to get an ultimate system. That just one of them by themselves is not going to provide the ultimate experience available. So I can see PrioVR not taking a huge hit just because Oculus comes out with whatever their flavor of controller is. I think that there's going to be a place for a supplement, because I don't, whatever they come out with, their version of Move or STEM or whatever, it'll be awesome, but I don't think it's going to replace the 17-point system. So I don't feel that Prio should be worried, that Oculus is coming out with their own gear. 6 Sense, on the other hand, I don't know.
Right. I mean, there definitely is a market for what Prio is doing, but I guess my point is that whatever Oculus comes out with in the next year or so will become the dominant form of VR input.
Man, what if it sucks? What if they come out with something and it's like,
Well,
it won't be
Still
dominant.
got all these other tracking systems.
That's right.
Something makes me think that they wouldn't do all that is they're really going after that seated experience and trying to make this very safe for people to use their house, and I'm not sure a full body tracking system would be up their alley to start with, but maybe the upper body or, just something else. I think, like a STEM thing makes the most sense. Or hopefully a glove, that's what we all dream of. All right, next up we got another guest spotlight. Mike from Tactical Haptics, also known as Quixotic. He's one of the software guys there. And Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in VR.
Yeah, so I'm 27, live in Utah. I just graduated from the University of Utah in Entertainment Arts and Engineering. Virtual reality, it's sort of been a childhood dream of mine. Since I was a kid, I was developing games and stuff on, started with the Commodore 64 and then sort of Windows machine, and when some 3D games like Doom and Duke Nukem 3D came out, I was like way excited to develop my own maps and worlds, and I had always played these games, and I put the cheats on, with God mode, just because I just wanted to walk around and explore these different worlds, so from a kid, it's always been, it'd be awesome if I could actually just step in and explore virtual world, and so that got me into 3D modeling and all that stuff, and yeah, here I am now.
Right on. Yeah, I just actually tweaked out there. Sometimes you got to readjust the calibration, so you'll see me go, and it's kind of odd, but that's all right.
How do you do that?
So, backspace on the keyboard, and right trigger on the Hydra. Check that out, see if that works. My Hydra key's broken, so I have to use both the keyboard and my Hydra. So,
thank you so much.
Sure thing. We plan on getting a nice doc out ahead of time to all the guests and have all these instructions, but thanks for bearing. And back to our guest spotlight with Mike. How'd you get involved then with Tactical Haptics?
Yeah, so last May in 2013, it was about summertime. I'm finishing up the semester, and Will Provancher had been recommended to contact me. And so he contacted me and wanted to see if I was interested in working for him as an undergraduate research assistant and to develop some demos for him. And so I went in and to his lab, and I got to try sort of the first version of the reactive grip, which was this sort of giant orange device with 4 sliding contactors. And Right now, it's not terribly impressive to me anymore, but when I first tried it, I was pretty blown away, and sort of my mind started running wild to see what kind of different demo ideas I could come up with. So I worked that summer starting to make some demos. The first demo I made was the slingshot demo. And that ended up being pretty good, and then from the summer I just continued working and making demos, and then I edited our Kickstarter video and did all that. And then after I graduated, I decided to join as an employee of Tactical Haptics, and just worked to make Tactical Haptics and Reactive Grip a reality. So.
That's a really cool story. That's I'm glad you landed that gig, man. That's super to come out of college and be hanging out with them and then get a full-time gig. That's kind of the dream.
Yeah, it's pretty random because, I had never really done much with haptics at all, so it was kind of a new field to me, and definitely sort of like, just like virtual reality sort of sparks all these different sort of development ideas, the haptics sparked all these different ideas of different things I want to do. I still have a giant list of things I'd like to create, but, just have never had the time to invest into making some of these demos. So.
Well, like what, are you able to share it, or is it top secret? Just a couple things.
Well, you've probably, some of you might have tried our fishing demo, and right now you can't catch a fish. So
I know.
That would be like, I would love to basically turn that into like a full-fledged fishing game. We've also got like sort of climbing, which has been demoed to a few people, but it needs a lot of work, and we got ice pick climbing, which doesn't work that well, so we haven't really demoed it that much, but so those are some things. I'd like to do some more stuff with like driving. I'd also like to create a pretty cool gravity gun type of device, and I think that could work pretty well haptically. Also for flying a spaceship, I think there's a lot of sort of subtle effects you could do, and that could be a really awesome demo.
So I think what I heard there is that you just confirmed Half-Life 3?
No.
I had to do it with no gravity gun. Thought maybe that was being integrated. Cool.
I wish I could confirm Half-Life 3. Sure. That would be
an
awesome thing.
No comment.
All right. So how about let's talk about STEM, and do you plan to integrate STEM into future iterations?
Well, we're definitely going to include support for STEM, and we're looking into getting some early access STEM devices so we can figure out how all that's working and figure out how that's going to integrate with our device. We don't really know exactly how we're going to do that right now, but it's definitely something we'll support.
Cool. And how about the SDK? How's that coming along?
The SDK, I've been pretty much working on that in all my time for the last couple months. So it's coming along pretty well. Main goals here are trying to make this as easy to use as possible, and I've already gotten it to the point where it's just I'm just always surprised how easy it is to use this stuff. Because when I first started, it is a hellish nightmare, trying to figure out how to do everything, but now it's all really nicely packaged, and working on making everything well documented and having different tutorials. and we'll have different sort of specific examples showing you how to do different things, from a flail, staff, pre-canned gun effects, a roller coaster.
Oh, wow.
And that way you can just sort of jump in, start looking at, and start getting an idea of, you know, what you think your idea might kind of want to do, and check out how those examples work. And then you can probably make it work for whatever you're doing. I'd say probably it'd take most people maybe about a week with the SDK to get up and running.
That's excellent. SDK for the win. And you basically answered my last question, which was, what are you going to do in the future? So it seems like you're pretty busy with the SDK. Cool.
Yeah, so basically working on getting the we're going to get the SDK together. We're looking at possibly doing another crowdfunding campaign this fall. Still looking, you know, at the pluses and minuses of that and figuring stuff out, but we're definitely moving forward.
It's great to hear, man. I can't wait to try that kind of product, and I hope it's in my hands soon. All right, we have another new segment here on Virtually Incorrect, and I hope APieceOfFruit is here with us. APieceOfFruit?
I'm always here.
There you are, back there in the back. Cool. Maybe head up over to one of these microphones, and what we're going to add here is...
Sorry.
Clap, clap, clap. Whoop.
Don't worry, it's the usual welcome I get when
you try to use my Hydra. There we go. Yeah, exactly. So APieceOfFruit's a good friend. He's part of Team Metatron, as well as I am, Nate, and a whole bunch of other cool kids. And what we're going to do is have APieceOfFruit rant about something, and then we're going to discuss it. So I have no idea what's going to be presented. APieceOfFruit, rant for us.
Are you sure you want to open that Pandora's box, Gunter? You know,
yeah.
I could be here all day.
I'll let you know. I'll wave when it's enough.
Okay, I'll start with something that's bothering me recently. The complete lack of tech demos on the subreddit. What's up with that? Everything is upcoming titles and teasers and complaints about stupid things in the news that have got the Oculus wrong, you know? What happened to the old days when there was like a white room with a chew in it that we could play just for the sake of having something to do? You know, I'm bored. Nothing to do anymore. Just sitting here twiddling my thumbs and playing with the older demos. It's not quite the same, you know? It's not totally the same. Yeah, like, when the community was smaller, there was more stuff to do, you know? Back when nobody really knew each other and there was all this stuff coming out. Back when, like, Worm Slayer was just a euphemism for your penis, you know? Nobody knew what was going on. Yeah, I bet you there's so many things out there. I bet you there's so many things out there people aren't showing us, you know? I bet you somebody out there has, like, Boob Valley and they're keeping it to themselves.
I want to see Boob Valley.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right,
yeah. Let's hunt this guy down and find out where it is. And think of all the things that Bruce could be playing. What happened to all these demos, right? Little things that were kind of freaking Bruce out when he was trying them out. I want to see the look on his face when he tries out some guy's demo about sellotaping koalas together to make a surfboard, you know? Where are these things? Somebody needs to release these damn demos.
It makes me think of Catron and Dark Akuma's avatar and VR chat are one of. But you guys, what do you think about this? Is there not enough demos out? What about the old days? There's actually old days now. It was about a year ago. We all got our stuff and started playing. For me, it was Minecraft that I was sucked into for 6 months, and it was rad. What about you guys, Mike?
Yeah, there hasn't been that many demos I've downloaded in the last month. It has definitely been a dry spell. Lots of videos have been posted of different cool things like the Alien game and the Sword Art Online and stuff that I'm just like, oh, I want to try that out, and I'm getting stoked to try this stuff, but yeah, nothing I've really seen lately has impressed me too much. I think the last thing I tried was is a underwater game where you could go scuba diving, and I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely a lack of new demos coming out. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I mean, for me, though, maybe a lot of people are just working more and we're not just getting as many demos and not playing as much. But yeah, Caine, what do you think?
Well, I would wonder whether or not those demos are out there and whether or not people like Drash VR, who does the roundups, people who are doing reviews of demos, I think the demos are out there. I mean, I did a demo from the Game Jam. It's called Shadow Projection. And when I posted it to the Oculus dev site, it was kind of like crickets, you know, and I posted it to the Reddit forum. And so I think it's more of a marketing issue and more of an ecosystem of people who are reviewing and recommending good experiences to check out rather than that the experiences aren't there. So Radial G, I think, is one that has been getting a lot of buzz lately. And I expect to see a lot more demos come out with DK2. Perhaps there's been a lot of people that have been waiting to integrate their project they've been working on for the past year to release positional tracking. And we haven't really even gotten the SDK2 or the next iteration of the SDK out to be able to integrate positional tracking, even if the Oculus Rift's DK2s showed up in people's doorsteps. I think they'd be more upset that they didn't have the software to be able to integrate all the new features and positional tracking. So I think that is a big, once that lands, I expect to see a lot more, almost a flood of stuff coming out.
That's a good point. Anybody else have anything to add? Anybody found any new games? I mean, Radial G's a great example. What was that, like amusement ride that just, Cymatic, I saw Cymatic Bruce play that, and you're just going, I don't know what kind of ride it is. It's I guess like the pirate ship that goes over and over like this.
Are you talking about crazy. The one that spins around like crazy?
That was crazy.
It's a like racing game.
Well, that's Radial G. I'm talking about a different one.
Oh, sorry.
Did I sum those up together?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name.
Yeah.
So this was an amusement park ride.
Yeah, and it was pretty good. I'll tell you what I think is a lot of the demos that we got originally were developers testing the waters, seeing what we liked, what we didn't like, using their demos to see how their bigger game is going to work. And they're working on that now. And, from my own personal development perspective, I am very curious to see what DK2 with the positional tracking is going to do to my own stuff. Is it going to make it or break it? I'm really, it's right now it's the calm before the storm. I think once DK2 comes out, the new Oculus SDK is implemented by all of the developers, we're going to see a shitstorm.
Yeah, I like that perspective.
It's going to be interesting to see what developers are going to do with the positional head tracking and colliding with the environment, Are they just going to let the head clip through the wall? Are they going to fade to black? Are you going to stop the head from moving? It'll be interesting to see what works the best.
Well, I think most developers that I've talked to have decided that, hey, if you decide to stick your head through the wall, more power to you. That's just let it happen.
Cool. Thanks, APieceOfFruit. That was a nice rant. Do you have anything to follow that up with?
Oh no, I've got plenty of rants, but I won't ruin your show. I'll save them for next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, APieceOfFruit. And speaking of games, let's talk about the Rifted Alien Isolation. That's just a prototype and not in development, but I saw some videos on that, and it was really interesting, at least in my opinion. And so Destructoid reported on this tweet that they put out, what we've got at the moment with Oculus is a prototype, and there's no full game in development. And the comment by Insomnia Bob says, the reality of current game development cycles is this. If it's not in development now, it's highly unlikely that it's going to be released. And they wouldn't announce that it's not in development if they had plans to release it. That's just how PR works. So does VR need a big polished AAA title to reach the masses, or can we get by with indies that get the fire lit with not the big AAA titles? And let's pass this to Rev to start.
Here's what kills me. I was at E3. I played Alien Isolation in the DK2 Oculus Rift. To hear that suddenly it's not going to be a game, there's got to be some crossed wires somewhere. I can't imagine that they would be showing off a demo of a game that's not going to exist. That's ridiculous. My wife played it in the press booth at the Oculus Press. And it looked really good. I mean, there were some issues, but all games have issues. It was really good, and I can't imagine that they would not want to put it out.
Yeah, I played it as well, and it was definitely very scary. I remember I was watching the alien off in the distance, and all of a sudden it started charging at me and rushed towards me, and there's this moment of just like pure fear and panic of like wondering whether this alien really was about to come stab and kill me. Of all the demos there, though, I thought it was kind of it felt the most like a port of like a regular game into VR, whereas the other three games felt like they were really optimized for VR, if that makes sense. Although your question about whether we need AAA titles or not, and I mean, clearly, so far there really hasn't been any AAA titles. I think they will definitely come. My hope is we'll see some announcements next year at E3. But I think that the kind of games and the kind of content that developers have already been making on their own has just been fantastic, and I think the VR community and people getting rifts will be perfectly fine with just small indie content. But that said, I do think that big game studios, I'm very excited to see what they put out in VR, because really all we've been seeing so far are these short 5-minute, 2-minute kind of a little bit shitty game demos. They're really all just been prototypes, and I'm just really waiting for that 10-hour, 5-hour experience that really shows polish, and I don't know how far away that is, but I'm certainly waiting for that.
What's your thoughts, Mike?
I think we are definitely going to need a couple nice AAA game titles if we really want the commercial Rift to be successful. 'Cause a lot of people, they're going to be looking... am I still here?
Yeah, we're here.
A lot of people... Just the video loading. All right. Yeah, so a lot of people, consumer-wise, right, they're not going to care so much about just buying this head-mounted display and then having to hack it and download all these random demos and whatnot. They just want to buy a system, and they'll probably buy that system because of a specific game. So if there's a couple nice AAA titles out there with TV commercials and stuff, it's going to get the everyday person to say, hey, I want to be in VR, and they'll go out and get a Rift so they can play that game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kent?
I think that you have to take into consideration the project management schedules and how long it takes AAA games to produce things. With so much uncertainty when it comes to both even the software being released, of when CD1 is going to come out, as well as VR input controls, I would imagine that it would be difficult for any AAA shop to be able to give any sort of certainty on anything. And the point that Cosmo made, I think, is a really good one in terms of porting. Palmer Luckey has said that, if you just do a straight port of a game that was designed in one 2D context and try to put it into VR, it doesn't always necessarily work out that great. So I would wonder how much the gameplay would be similar versus the 2D version of Alien Isolation when compared to a fully immersive 3D version. Perhaps they're completely different, and they realize how much of a side project it would be to be able to do both. And you'd have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to half serve two different mediums or really just focus on one and not introduce a lot of risk and instability into your timeline. So I think it's the timeline for AAA is going to take a while, and I think the Rift will be okay launching with just some independent titles, and business and other applications beyond just gaming. I think is going to drive a lot of stuff as well. Solving real business problems. I think it'll be okay. We don't need to have AAA games when maybe Bloomberg's terminal that allows people who are watching the stock market to be 1.5 times more efficient and earn more money. That's going to be a huge thing. So the applications and corporations and telecom presence and beyond just gaming, I think, are going to be a driver as well. But at the same time, it will start in gaming because that's where all the content creators who know how to work the tools, it will be seated and start there. But
yeah, well, something that makes me think of it's Oculus and VR is going to have more content than the PlayStation 4 did when it released, and maybe even still now. I'm not sure. But definitely we'll need some AAA studios, and it's a good point that it's going to take some time. I mean, these things take a lot of time, actually. And I see somebody put up the Tilt-A-Whirl video, but that is not the amusement park I was referencing, or the amusement ride.
I think I found it.
The other one was kind of like a zipper, basically, but it was more just like one platform. I don't know. I checked it out, and it was wild, man. I thought it was pretty fun, and it looked like Cybermatic Bruce was having a lot of fun, too. Does anybody not know the name? How about... Okay.
It's called Cyber something, I think.
Cyberspace, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, cyberspace. How's that audio?
Yeah, Mike is, not here, so I think he's doing this remotely somehow.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Mike.
Splash top on his phone or something like that.
And we can skip videos. Not a big deal.
Kind of scared, terrifying to watch this.
Yeah, it's getting me right here. Yeah.
I love how the environment there is so detailed. It really gives you something to look at.
And the audio there, so you can tell you're going further away. It's awesome. Thanks, Rubik. It's funny. Cool. All right. So moving on, we're going to go to another guest spotlight. Let's talk to Cosmo, VRLA meetup. So you started that out and you facilitate that. That's really interesting. I'm a big fan of meetups and starting VR social stuff and getting people together. So tell us how you got into VR and how you got into starting this meetup.
Yeah. So I've been avidly interested in technology for half my life, since middle school, and following tech blogs every day. And so I knew about the Rift ever since I think they first launched the Kickstarter for it, it was 2 years ago, and it was very exciting. And I didn't buy it because I wasn't a developer, and I didn't really want to mess with that. But I was very excited by it, and I read Ready Player One, I think, halfway through that, a year ago, and that was cool. But I still wasn't. I don't know. I didn't really do anything about it, I guess, and. I don't know. I was talking with one of my friends about this past winter, just generally about the Rift, and we were excited by it. And so I started getting more into. I started reading the Oculus subreddit on a daily basis, and I started listening to podcasts. This guy sitting here. So I was listening to Rev's podcast. I think the one where he was talking to the guy that runs the New York meetup. I forget. It was Eric Greenbaum, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And they were just talking about meetups, and so I looked online for Los Angeles, and there was nothing there, and I just decided to go ahead and make mine, not knowing at all how I was going to do it at all, but it ended up working out. We did our first event in April at Digital Domain, which was, yeah, thanks. And Digital Domain was they had like this massive motion capture stage. They do visual effects for movies and video games. And we had our second event a few weeks ago at the MXR Lab, which is actually where Palmer Luckey was working before Oculus was even a thing. So that was pretty sweet. And now we are planning our third event. And that will probably be sometime this August. And basically, our goal is to promote VR and get people to try out the latest and greatest.
Excellent. And how did you find it is? Did you find it is socializing in VR versus at your meetups?
Oh, like in this app itself?
Yeah, like this. And have you done anything like VR chat or any other social experiences?
Well, this is really kind of the first really social VR thing I've actually really ever done, so that's cool. I actually don't own a Rift, ironically, but I'm borrowing my friend's right now, so that's how I'm moving my head so nicely. But I think VR, socializing VR has a very long way to go in terms of mimicking real life, in that it's, pushing a button on the keyboard and having a microphone is very far away from what it's like to talk to someone in real life. There's a lot of social and interactional cues that we take from each other, such as leaning in to talk to someone or opening your mouth. We have your body language and a lot of right now as I talk to you, literally I just have this thing on my head and I'm pressing a keyboard and I have a microphone and that's all it is. But I think as the technology evolves, it will certainly. I think we'll get to a point where I can talk to you and it'll literally feel like you are right there in front of me and we're having a conversation as naturally as we would in real life. And that's, one of all the things in VR, that's what I'm really kind of looking forward to, is being able to talk to someone like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, I'm a big fan, and I guess I assume everybody's doing this all the time, like I am. I kind of live in a couple of these spaces, like VR Chat and riftmax, and it started in Minecraft when they did positional audio on the Rift only server there. So that was fantastic to discover. So if this is your first time in like this kind of thing, then welcome, and it's pretty rad stuff. So. Do you think you'll continue to run these meetups after like CV1 and everybody has Rifts in their hands?
Yeah, that's a good question. The cool thing about what I'm doing right now is the Rift isn't out, and so it's one of the few places where you can try a lot of these demos. But I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to continue doing VRLA for several years. I mean, I have no idea what's going to end up happening, but I think the nature of what I'm doing will certainly change as the Rift is actually launched, and probably it will turn into more of a, I guess, developer-focused thing where maybe we'll have kind of exclusives from developers that people will be able to come and try out before they actually release it, and have it more of a forum for developers to get feedback. But I don't know. I'm not exact. Yes, we will continue to do it as the consumer version is shipped, but it'll certainly be a different kind of conference.
Gotcha. So is there anything else that you're thinking about doing in the future besides the meetups in the VR world?
Yeah. Well, I am working on a software solution for telling stories in VR, and with my co-organizer Johnny Ross and a few other people, and unfortunately I can't get into Where's that clap coming from? That sounds so bizarre. It's like it's coming from the left side. It's like invisible.
Yeah.
No, stop.
Should hear one of the female avatars.
So I'm working. Unfortunately. Oh God, it's terrifying.
All right.
It's really weird. So unfortunately, I can't get into the details of that, but we're essentially putting together a prototype that should be ready maybe in a month or two. Yeah, I'm working on a few VR projects. I'd also like to start, learning how to use Unreal and Unity myself, because that's really ultimately what I want to do, is be someone who is creating content for VR. I'm not a developer right now. Like right now, I'm just organizing the community, and that's awesome. But ultimately, I want to play more of a stronger role in determining how VR goes throughout the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get in and play with Maya more and pick that back up. I only started and be an artist like I am with the other things that I do with web development. And I know Rev here, he's also starting to travel down that road, and it's becoming very important for him. So that's great to hear.
It's a very fun road.
Yeah. I think, developers are going to have all the power in the future as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, right now, finding a good developer is very hard, and the need for developers is only going to increase as VR becomes more popular and more prevalent.
And one thing I would throw out there is that, in the ideal metaverse, it'll be very easy for content creation to happen.
Right.
That's like virtual worlds like Second Life. That's their whole thing, is create the tools for people to create a virtual world and a virtual environment without needing to be a developer. So I'm really curious to see what happens with things like high fidelity and other next generation, maybe Second Life version 2.0, or any virtual world that enables people to create things like Minecraft or Minecraft, I guess, in the Oculus Rift version. It's a perfect example of that. So.
Yeah, I think people are going to turn into more creators when virtual reality is the mainstream instead of just being consumers of everything, because it'll be so easy, and I think just allows you to communicate things in a much richer way. Like, it ends up being a form of communication more than just like I'm a tinkerer and build things. Cool, thanks for sharing all that, Cosmo.
Of course.
And let's move into another topic here. We do have somebody on stage with us that sometimes when you have your hydras and you go past kind of the base station, they can end up like that over there. I've had some weird things happen to me during the show.
Pretty bizarre.
It's like a hula dance, yeah.
That one's actually not as bizarre as it would just be great if he was waving it, Da-da-na-na. Be great. All right, so next story is actually a friend of mine, Deep Rifter. He actually emailed me this really interesting story when he was demoing the Rift to someone. And so I'll just go ahead and read that. Saw my first mental break on the Rift. Was doing a demo for a woman. Did Red Frame, Tuscany, and some Kite and Lightning demos. I could tell she was way into it with her, because of her physical movements, and her jaw was open wide the whole time. When she came out of it, she was very excited and a little bit shaky. Everything was fine until about 15 minutes later, when she started panicking and sincerely began asking if she was still connected to the machine. Went downhill from there. She was stuck, not knowing what was real or not. I totally felt like I was sitting for her on an acid trip. Lasted about 45 minutes, and I was fairly nervous, thinking, please don't let this let me be associated with the first hospitalized person from bad VR. And her husband was very concerned that his wife kept asking, or the husband was very concerned, and my wife kept asking what the hell I did to this poor woman. There were no drugs involved. However, she did have a history of mental illness with marked anxiety. It was pretty crazy. Things are going to get real interesting when the CV1 hits the masses. So that's really interesting. What do you guys think of that, Kent?
Well, I think that it sort of speaks to, one, we don't really know how people are going to react until we start to see things like this. This is actually the first time I've heard anything like that, so it's really interesting. What may have caused that. But I think it also speaks to kind of the ethical obligations that as VR developers that we have in terms of what are the kind of guidelines that we're going to do so that we don't cause people post-traumatic stress, or if it's kind of like a warning system before you go see a movie. It kind of has some sort of sense and review. This is what you can expect. And if people are too sensitive, if they have some trauma in their lives, then they need to know, is this a safe experience for me to have?
Sure.
And there needs to be some sort of system and ethical guidelines that I think VR developers are doing, so they're not sort of doing a relaxation experience and doing a giant jump scare that's going to really freak people out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nobody wants to have this big bad VR acid trip happening, and there's going to be those things are going to happen. It reminds me of like epilepsy. There's these epileptic warnings on things, but that's still a reality for a lot of people, and it causes a lot of problems. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, it's like the first time I've really heard of anyone going crazy from the Rift. It's kind of interesting. But there are people out there with different mental diseases and have different sort of perceptions of what reality is. And some people might think they're constantly in some sort of dream state or something, in which case virtual reality could end up really sort of messing with these people's minds. So there definitely needs to be some sort of disclaimer on this, to keep these types of head-mounted displays and virtual reality devices from really sort of screwing someone over mentally, because no one wants that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I heard this story too. It's a great story, and I'm glad he wrote in with it. Just didn't know if this was going to happen. I heard some, folks that I play with Minecraft have some experiences that were kind of, interesting throughout their day. They were not sure and stuff of what was, they've been in Minecraft for like 8 hours, so it kind of makes a little bit of sense. But this was a full-on real freak out. Cause, have you heard anything like this, and what are your thoughts?
No, I haven't heard anything like that, but I think as more and more people have VR headsets in their house, and the more, I guess, diverse range of experiences that people can try, that there will be more possibility, I guess, or opportunity for people to get freaked out or scared. And there, especially with like horror applications, those are in VR. Those are 10 times scarier than if you were looking at them or playing them on a screen, or like even just your head spinning around like that is terrifying. Yeah, it is really really freaky. But I think these kind of stories will only increase as we continue
for sure
down VR.
How about you, Rev?
Well, okay, so I recently did some demos for some people, and I had a few people who were like, I don't really want to do this because I have a problem with these sort of things, and I know that I'm susceptible to bad effects from things, so I'm not going to do it. And I think that's what this ends up being is people got to be smart and know that, hey, if I walk out into traffic, I'm going to get hit by a car. Be smart about it. Know that if you're nuts, you don't do this sort of thing because it messes with you. A little bit of education might be necessary, but in the long run, epileptic people don't stare at blinking lights. They know better.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, and your thoughts on that interesting story from Deep Rifter?
Well, what's also interesting is like VR experiences, like how those sort of get stored in our memory. Like when I think back to playing different VR experiences, they kind of feel like when I remember them, like I was actually there. And it's kind of a little weird. So, possibly that effect, everyone has sort of a different memory system, and maybe that just sort of hit her in her memory and she couldn't, discern that, oh yeah, that was sort of this pixelized, computerized experience. And she's like, well, maybe I was actually really there, like, and just got mentally confuzzled and, just started losing her marbles, not knowing, now if she was like really here in a computer simulation and just sort of rewiring her. It's an interesting aspect.
We certainly have never had technology that could quite do something like that. We were on screens, and I have these memories of like GoldenEye, like playing that with my friends a long time ago. I could still see some of that in like World of Warcraft. So it is interesting how these games and these experiences are imprinted. And now, of course, being in there is just another level. Deep Rifter also emailed me after he went to the Kite and Lightning party in LA about a month or so ago. And he enjoyed himself a lot there. There was a lot of cool things to try, a lot of celebrities type folks, and just like all this art scene that was really cool. But one of the demos he did, or one of the Rift things that he did, was he's in a neat, interesting room and he puts the Rift on, and then when he's in the Rift, he's also in a replication of the room he was just in, and so it gives you that moment of, am I still in that room or am I in virtual reality now? And so I thought that was really, really cool.
I'd like to try that demo.
Yeah, me too.
Didn't Reverend Kyle, didn't you get to try that Project Genesis experience?
I did. It was a trippy experience. I highly recommend you try it if you get a chance. It blew my mind. I almost cried a little bit.
Oh, are we talking about the thing that you lie down on?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I tried that. I waited like 2 hours to try it at this party for Kite and Lightning. It was awesome. It starts off with like this recreation of a virtual model of the actual like thing that you lie down on.
Right.
And it's like playing this really epic music, and you're like flying through this golden ocean. And it's amazing. Huh. It feels great.
That sounds pretty epic.
It was.
Yeah, I love hearing all you guys say that, because Sense of Peso is freaking amazing, and everything they're doing is really great. I almost had Akrima on the show, but we had some difficulties, and I'm gonna get him back because I definitely got a lot to ask him, and big fan of all that. Cool. Let's go into another guest spotlight. Reverend Kyle, Road to VR, RevVR podcast. For those who don't know, just tell a little brief bit about you, what you do, and that sort of thing.
Yes, my name is Reverend Kyle. I'm an Aries. I like long walks on the beach.
Me too.
Ooh, Aries too.
Yeah. So, I've been doing my podcast since, and it's funny, Matt, where's Matt Carroll? He's back there somewhere. He asked me, he's like, when are you doing your 1 year anniversary, podcast? I looked it up. The date's August 6th. So that is
nice.
The 1 year anniversary. Yeah. So I've done 70. It'll be 72 episodes here soon, and I've been loving every bit of it. And I've been with the Road to VR team since February, I guess. And VR has basically taken over my life.
I remember. Perfect. When you got hooked up with Road to VR, it was such a cool thing, and congratulations. That was really cool to see. And when you said August 6th is your anniversary for that made me think of Minecraft, actually. On August 5th is when they dropped the positional audio in there, and that's where me and Additives and some other folks just, boom, here we are on a social experiment using Mumble, positional audio, and it's rocking. And it was just, months and months of that stuff. Cymatic Bruce joined us. Rev Kyle was hanging out building a church in the Minecraft world, and it's just fantastic stuff. So I don't know if we really know the whole story of how you got hooked up with Road to VR. I think people would be interested in that. Can you share a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's not much of a story. Everybody knows Road to VR is the number one source for all of your VR news, and so it just made sense. Ben Lang approached me. He said, hey, you've got the ears. We've got the eyes of the VR community. You've got the ears. Let's team up and put it together. And I went, well, okay, who isn't going to want to be part of that team? And it's been very, it was a very fortuitous decision, and one of the best ones I've made so far.
A team now, but maybe soon to be this collective, is that correct?
Yeah, the VR collective, we are the VR Borg. Assimilate now.
And so you've been to SVVR, E3, and even VR Labs. Some might say you've seen it and tried it all. What would be your ideal rig if you could grab bits and pieces of everything you've used?
Ooh, good question. Wow. I would say I like the... Well, I don't know. That's a toughie because I have tried a lot of headsets that have advantages like better resolution screens or different tracking, but I don't know if I want to have a room full of cameras up on my ceiling. I'm going to just say, just give me CV1 with some good controllers and some good games, and I'll be a happy camper.
Right on. And what about the future? What is going on with your podcast, Road to VR and beyond? And maybe a little bit of development?
Yeah, so the last little bit of time here, I've been working on something that is called Project Taurus. That's Taurus. It is not about donuts, Blair, if you watch this. It's a project I've been working on. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart, with VR taking off in so many different platforms, Android, PC, Mac, whatever. Where is that one universal experience across all of these different platforms? Nobody has done this yet, and so Project Taurus is attempting to be that first game, that first experience that should be universal across all different platforms.
I love that. That's really rad. I'm a big fan of like the mobile options like GameFace is providing, and just that whole thing is I see it marrying with social so much. I'm really intrigued about this project and can't wait to see more. We talked about, though, you had a cardboard video. I'm not sure, Rubik, if we're ready for that or if you can suggest that, but I definitely would like to see that.
Yeah, so I had the fortunate, I talked with Stefan from Durovis Dive. He's just a fantastic group of guys, all those Durovis guys, and while I got new lenses for my Durovis Dive at the SVVR Expo, he's like, here, take another set. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I thought, okay, well, that'll be handy to have them. And little did I know that the Google Cardboard would come about, need those lenses, and I took the advantage of being the first person to put a video out where I made one myself. It wasn't laser cut and it wasn't a kit, and it looks like the video is...
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah,
I did this late one night, yeah.
And I'm sitting here with my newly built Google Cardboard. Now, you'll notice that this is not a kit. This is actually built from scratch. I built it out of the pieces that Google said to go buy, and so I did. So I got some fluted cardboard, and I got the specific magnets that they said to get. They were easily obtainable from a local hardware store, and then I also got some Velcro.
It fell out of the package.
I put it together and used a
Exacto knife and some.
Yeah, there you go. Speed it up. There you go. Everybody loved this music. I don't even know why. It was freebie crap from YouTube.
Looks like a boob on the left.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I was cutting it out.
See boobs everywhere.
Wow, cool.
Damn.
It's actually very entertaining. But,
Sounds like a mom song.
Yeah, there you go.
One, and having
You
seven.
can stop it.
To decide whether or not Velcro. So, will I show this to folks?
Actually, it's a good part.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do this video because I knew that nobody had done it yet, and it did. It took about an hour plus to get that thing built, and I'm really finding it to be a novel and fun addition to my VR setup. I got to give them props where props are due. People have been knocking Google Cardboard, but I think it does have a home. I really do.
That's really interesting to hear. I wasn't really sure if that made a ton of sense, so I'm glad to hear that. And what about your wife though with the nose bleeding? Was that a thing?
Well, okay, so my wife, as hideously deformed as she is, she was having a problem. she wanted to assure everybody. She's like, I'm not deformed. It's like, okay, no, she she said that it was digging into her nose, and I've heard people say that about the Rift and other equipment as well. Not everybody's head's shaped the same, and these manufacturers have to take that into consideration, and some people have really close together eyes, some people have huge noses, some people have high cheekbones. They have to take account for that. But no, there was no actual bleeding. I assure you, that was just me exaggerating. Yes.
Yeah, this will dig into my nose sometimes. If and if I put it on my forehead, I really can't. Like it just hurts because some of the plastic around the lenses is just digging into my forehead. So I'm always wondering, how is everybody always putting it on their forehead?
Yeah, really also Medic Bruce always wear that like that.
Yeah, he has a bandana though, so I guess that helps. I probably should think about that. I wouldn't probably wear a bandana. I'd do it like a ninja style or something.
I've been thinking that might be a solution somewhere down the road, is a full face covering, and then people like maybe High Fidelity can use sensors attached to the face skin to get your facial expressions instead of trying to use a camera with a Rift on, because that doesn't work.
It's interesting. I'm not sure how many people would want to put, I will put it on my face for sure because I want to share my emotions in VR, but getting hot, I would wonder. And then you usually have the same problem. Like some people sweat a lot, some people don't, so all that would be factored in, but yeah, give it to me. I'll try.
I have to address something that the chat is saying. Oh, Reverend Kyle did a 180 on the Google Cardboard. Look, kids, I said it has a place, not that it's a replacement. Okay, so here's what I've been using it for. I can throw my phone into it real quick, and I can make sure that my Android version of Project Taurus is functioning. And that's not something that I was able to do. Even putting it in the dive, I had to adjust the lenses and all that stuff. So there is some value to this product. Is it a replacement for the Oculus Rift? Absolutely not. And anybody who says that it is a fool.
I found his first tweet about it, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so here's something before, obviously I'm sitting there staring at my own words. the cardboard had something that I had no idea it had, which is a freaking button. And the Durovas Dive has no input, but the cardboard does.
What do you mean a button? Where's the button?
That little magnet thing, it functions as a button.
How? I don't understand.
Okay, so the magnetic field changes and the compass translates that into a button.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's
I had
insane.
no idea.
Wait, that's crazy. So it works with the compass in the phone?
Yep. So you
What a
pull
weird
a magnet down.
workaround.
Yeah, you pull a magnet down, and it registers as a click, and it really works.
I had no idea about that. That's awesome.
Will Durovas add that?
If they did, that would be epic.
Excellent. That's excellent. Thanks, Rev. Glad you shared all that. You're always up to
Yes, and whoever put that Twitter post up there, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, it's Rubik. Man. I love it. I'm glad you're able to grab these pictures and screenshot and put this stuff up. Rubik's a master in the Cymatic Bruce chat and the riftmax chats and moderating there, and now I have it on my show. I'm very happy.
Love you too.
Woohoo! All the love. Okay, last story. SVVR 11 Oculus Contender GameFace paired with Stompz motion controller. Observe a moment of innovation at the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Meetup as Ed Mason, CEO of GameFace Labs, and Matt Carroll, CEO and inventor of the Stompz movement input device, interface their respective creations to make one incredible experience. Rubik, I think there's a video. I don't think I had it linked, but if you could find that, that'd be great. And what do you guys think of this? Let's start it off with Mike.
Yeah, I think that's great that they're coming together and basically, like the GameFace, it's pretty cool just on its own, but it needs some sort of input system, and pairing it with Stompz to be able to walk, it sounds really promising, and hopefully the final release of GameFace will, come bundled with Stompz. Could be a winner.
So is the news that they're partnering in some way?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Matt, I think, joined at one point. Are you here, Matt? No, I think he's here right now. So
he's chilling back there. I just don't think he's. Well, I think the concept here is that, hey, look, if you buy a GameFace, you can also buy a Stompz, and you can use them together. And I think that the idea of showing that your product works with somebody else's product is very valuable. I mean, I've already talked to Matt, and Stompz is going to be a contender for input. Yeah, and I think Stompz is going to be an input device that will be compatible with Project Taurus. So it's good to know those sorts of things.
And I like how both solutions lend themselves to mobile. Stompz is definitely, you don't have to carry an Omni around. You can just carry these devices that, bring with you. And same thing with the GameFace. It's going to go with you. I'm so excited to see what's going to come out of that type of thing.
I just want to see you carry around an Omni, Gunter.
A portable Omni.
I'll take it to a park, and instead of actually doing exercise in the park, I'll just do my Omni.
I'm a huge fan of the GameFace, so I think that is interesting news. Although I have seen Ed walks around with a PS3 controller every time he gives demos of the GameFace, which is pretty natural and easy way to navigate all the kind of test demo software that he has. I haven't tried the Stompz myself, so I can't speak to how good or bad it is, but it does seem like a kind of, I guess, like a unique solution to locomotion.
Totally.
Absolutely. What do you think, Kent?
Well, I walked into SVVR not really paying that much attention to mobile, and I left sort of realizing that there's going to be 3 tiers of kind of like mobile, computer desktop, and sort of fully immersive, full room that maybe tracks you around. So it's kind of like maybe the arcade or IMAX theater experience. So I think mobile is certainly going to be a huge part of the VR ecosystem. The question that I would have is who's going to be the big player in that? We all know that Samsung's coming out with some sort of VR set that is likely going to integrate with their latest, tablet, Galaxy 5 likely. And Oculus also has an Android SDK that's going to be coming out. We all know that John Carmack's been working on that. So it'll be interesting to see in the long run how players like GameFace Labs, Dervius Dive, VRLA just got bought up by or merged with Immersion, which in talking to Kevin Williams in an interview that I did with him just before I did this, he was saying that they're going to ruggedize it and turn it into kind of a theater, or I guess they're going to turn it into an amusement park device where when you go to something like a theme park like Disney World, they give you this ruggedized AR device that you put on, and you'd be able to kind of experience the theme park in a unique way. And so I think that cool. Oculus is targeting something that's very, it sounds like there's going to be a market for those types of mobile applications, or being able to just throw on a mobile device and watch a 3D video very quickly, rather than sort of getting all the wires and everything set up, and you can only be in one place for watching videos on the Rift. So, like I said, I wonder how the ecosystem in mobile is going to play out. I think it's still really early. No one really knows what Samsung and what Oculus is going to come out with, but I think doing Stompz in particular with mobile, I think is going to be a lightweight way to create a lot of immersion, and again to make it feel like you're actually walking around and give you that additional sense of presence. Again, these motions that you do subconsciously and unconsciously is just another way of kind of tricking your primitive limbic lizard mind that you're really there when you're not.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And we might have the video loading now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. You crashed. 7 minute cruise.
The Rambler.
He's working like this in VR chat as well.
Dreams are becoming reality.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, when I met Matt and GameFace, Ed in VR chat, and VR chat folks was able to get their software to work with GameFace, which was awesome. It's funny how we watch people in virtual reality. We have no idea.
Yeah, this is pretty meta right now. Yeah.
So meta. But I can tell what's going on, it's cool.
Not like my video when I'm doing GameFace.
I don't know if I remember if I...
Oh, yeah, it was from the SVVR Expo, and you couldn't see what I was looking at, and I was very vaguely describing what it was I was looking at, and
very large mountains.
There were, yes, bountiful bulbs of, yes.
Cool. We can go ahead and end that.
Yeah, so I do want to throw something out here, something that GameFace is doing that I hope people realize is different from what Samsung and Drovis and even Google Cardboard is. GameFace is a proprietary system. They've designed the Android version, the operating system, the launcher, and everything to do what it's supposed to do with the hardware. It's not a phone that goes inside of a holder or some sort of external interface.
Yeah, good point.
GameFace is optimizing their entire system for content delivery, and that's something that I have a feeling that Samsung is going to struggle with, or even Oculus for that matter, is putting something on a Nexus 5 versus an HTC One versus a Galaxy Note 3 versus whatever Huawei crazy phone that somebody got from a wireless, pay-as-you-go dealer. There's struggles there, and that's where GameFace is. GameFace is just GameFace, and you don't have to worry about your hardware not being adequate. And that's the difficulty with the mobile universe right now, is a lot of fragmentation, and you're going to struggle with an external SDK from Oculus or whatever. Samsung's going to force you to buy their phone, so that's where they've got you. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's just a phone.
Great point. We definitely don't want all that bloat that these like Samsung and other people put on there, or it's also trying to be something else that would be a terrible idea. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts?
I can see people, with the Android type of head-mounted display, buying the cheapest Android phone and then trying to do virtual reality applications on it, and just having just a horrible time, where if they get something like GameFace, it's going to be designed for that purpose and work well for that purpose, and have a more powerful video card built into it and everything. And if they get applications designed for GameFace, they're gonna have a good time.
Absolutely.
Totally. Cool, guys. All right, well, this is going to be our audience portion of the show. If you guys have questions, comments, anything like that, just go ahead and line up at the two microphones there. There's somebody already at this microphone that's been there for a while. I'm not sure if you've just been waiting so patiently to ask a question. If you are, please. Oh, it's Nuke. What's up?
Oh, no, the other guy's up first.
Oh, wait, no, it's just his... Sorry, I'm getting confused with the lights on the mic. What's up? I don't think your mic's working. I can see your thing lighting up, but we only hear a couple cracks, so wah, 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 unfortunately. Wah, wah. So maybe you can work on that, and we'll go to the left. And is that Nuke?
Nuke Marine, yes.
Hey, Nuke.
Actually, a couple of quick questions. To Rev Kyle about building the Google Cardboard. In your opinion, what is that hour of time worth to you? So if somebody wanted to buy it, because right now you can buy them off, I think, I forget the website, but Dodo or something like that. But how much you think your time is worth?
Well, it's a good question. To me, to be able to do the video and the proof of concept and just being able to say, I built one by hand, that was worth a lot to me. But if you didn't already have the lenses, screw that. Buy the kit. Get one pre-built.
And the other question was about about the rant, about the lack of content. And the problem is that we've got plenty of demos, but they're not really good demos because there's not a lot of time spent on them. And do you think that's actually, we're just in that phase now, we want quality over quantity?
That's a good point.
I do. I want quantity, or I want quality now. I've had quantity. I've had demos lined up that I have to try, even things that never made it into Reddit or whatever, and just developers wanted me to try their stuff, and it's overwhelming, the amount of stuff that didn't get to see the light of day to everyone. But developers are scared right now. They're in the kind of the twilight zone. They don't know what's going to come out. I mean, once DK2 is out and there's a couple 1,000 of them and people are playing around with them, I think we're going to see another landslide of small demos. But really, people need to be working on their long-term stuff right now, and we need to have the big stuff being produced, or it won't be available when CV1 comes out.
There was a video that the Virtuality reviewer did that was like the top 40 demos or something, and I think that I just sort of reiterate my point that that there probably may be stuff out there that is relatively undiscovered, and that there's going to be a bigger and bigger need for an ecosystem of reviewers and recommendation systems and people that are doing that and really trying everything and giving recommendations and building that trust up. That's still a pretty big need that's out there. We already have that ecosystem that's developing, but it's going to, as these 50,000 and 100,000 developer kits that are out there, there's going to be some point where it's going to become overwhelming to know which ones to spend time actually experiencing.
there should be a council of reviewers that, everyone reviews a virtual reality game, and then if they all agree that it works well for virtual reality, that gets their seal of approval and goes on their site.
Like a Billboard Top 100.
Exactly.
We should start that. Great question. Thanks, Newt. On my right, I have somebody. What's your name?
Hey, my name's Clan Solo. Fantastic show. Fantastic show, Gunter.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I noticed that the Steam machine is delayed until 2015, and I wanted to know, have any of you guys considered a Valve Oculus partnership to provide computer hardware for the CV1? And what do you guys think of that possibility?
Sure hope so. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's a really interesting alternative to buying a gaming PC. Personally, I don't really want to wait until 2015 to be able to run VR games on a Steam box, but I think Valve has some really interesting VR prototypes, and they're HMD, but I don't imagine them turning that into a product in the near term, at least with the consumer version of the Rift on the horizon. But I actually have not really thought about that in terms of kind of like a bundle with a Steam box and a Rift. I actually really like that idea because there is a huge problem in terms of computing power that the average consumer lacks. When the consumer version drops, the vast majority of people's computers are not going to be able to run the kind of games that they'll want to run because they're just simply not powerful enough, because VR is so freaking demanding. And then you have the PS4, which remains to be seen of how powerful, how long that will be able to provide great VR experiences. So I'm not really sure about that, but I do like the sound of some kind of a bundle between Valve and Oculus.
I would say that the thing that's probably holding that back is that my understanding is that the Steam boxes are in Linux. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it does run Unity though, right?
Well, I think the issue is that, I'm on a Mac, which being in a VR development community and having almost everything be on Windows can be a little frustrating sometimes, because, that's often the first thing that's released is a Windows demo. So there's a lot of stuff that either I have to do boot camp or do parallels, or just, it's just things just don't work as well. With Linux, that is amplified even worse, because there's even less demos that are out there that are Linux-based. And so I think it's more of a, for the long term, it's great that eventually, if everybody was running open source and Linux and it all worked perfectly, then great, let's do that. Let's sort of dump Windows and Windows 8 and, let's sort of get standardized on something. But I think it's, at this point, it's still going to be fractured into those three platforms. And then, fortunately, Linux seems to be the last thing in the afterthought that people think about.
Yeah, I think there's some validity to your claim, to your concerns, and I've talked about it on my podcast a few times about how smart it would be for Oculus to partner somehow with Valve and have Steam boxes be the solution to these problems that everybody's going to have, that you guys have already addressed. Is Grandma's Packard Bell isn't going to be able to run CV1, and so what does she want to do? Yeah, I know, right? But Grandma's either going to call you and have you have to build her a pooter, or you're going to have her go out to Best Buy and or whatever and trust the salesman to get you something. And 9 times out of 10, those boxed machines have inferior video cards anyway. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is you build a $300 computer with a $600 video card, and you sell that, and it looks like a console. It sits like a console on next to the TV, and suddenly grandma can, do her business in VR and not have to call you every 10 minutes. So yeah, I think that's something, and Oculus, the folks there are not stupid, and they know that that's a solution that they have to have a problem. They have to have a solution for everyone, and so I think there is some validity to that possibility.
That's a great question. Thank you. Who's up next? Don't hear you. Looks like it's lighting up, so you got the right button. Just unfortunately, silence is coming through. Ooh, what a way to end the show. Please. We want to hear you. I know.
We end on a moment of silence.
I've had that stuff happen to me too at times where I've just, nobody's hearing me.
Don't go away. No.
Well, he's exiting.
Type your
out
question in chat.
It was embarrassed.
That's right. That's pretty much most of the time that we have. I do want to turn things over to my guests to plug anything they would like, so we'll just start down the line, Kent.
Yeah, I'd say the VoicesOfVR.com is where I try to focus on putting a spotlight on other people within the VR community, and so I'd recommend checking out that to see what's going on in the VR community. And yeah.
Perfect. How about you, Mike?
All I can say is follow Tactical Haptics on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube so you can get all our latest updates.
Sweet. Done, and done. Cos?
Cool. You can go to virtualrealityla.com or thank you, or meetup.com/virtualrealityla to find out more information about our events.
Excellent. And Rev, nobody knows where to go to find your stuff. Can you let everybody know?
Yeah, absolutely not. RoadToVR.com. Go check out all the wonderful articles and stuff that we post, and also the Rev VR podcast. If you guys don't mind, go out to Stitcher and give me give the Rev VR podcast a review.
1 star.
Or 5. Yeah, I don't even care, just something. Because apparently they do their rankings and stuff using that. And so if y'all like what you hear, go out and give me a star or 2 on Stitcher. Thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. So I do want to throw out a couple things as well. If you want to be a guest, please let me know. Reach out to me on Reddit at Gunter444. And I'm also looking for an editor for the show. So this would be to take all the footage we record tonight, edit it down to a nice YouTube version, and that would be awesome. So interested, let me know, and we'll go there. I also have a little bit of sad news. Speaking of the editing situation, Caine will no longer be editing or helping produce the show, and really what I want to do is publicly apologize to Caine. He was insulted by some comments I made on the show about not watching my own show because I'm a little timid and don't like hearing my voice too much. So, and I didn't really talk about how his involvement in getting the show running. I just kind of was selfish and just brought up how I founded this idea for Virtually Incorrect. So I want to really apologize for that, because I know that was a little bit difficult and it's caused a little bit of awkwardness in the air. So hopefully that works. We can be let bygones be bygones and be friends still. So that's pretty much it. This wraps up another edition of Virtually Incorrect. I want to thank all my guests, audience members, riftmax, VI team, authors, commenters on the story, and everybody watching. Have a good night, everybody, and keep on riding the wonderful. Yeah.